What if I told you that everything you've been told about confidence is wrong? What if the reason you feel insecure, hesitant, or stuck isn't because you're not capable, but because you've been measuring your worth in all the wrong ways? What if I said that confidence isn't something you're born with? It's a skill, a muscle you can build, and the moment you realize this, your whole life can change. Imagine feeling unstoppable, not because the world approves of you, but because you trust yourself fully, even when fear whispers stop. Imagine embracing failure, valuing the process, and speaking to yourself with the same kindness you give to your closest friend. And imagine taking action, even when your heart races, knowing that every step forward strengthens the invisible courage inside you. The truth is, real confidence isn't waiting for the perfect moment. It's waiting for you to claim it. And the moment you do, nothing and no one can shake it. What if I told you that everything you've been told about confidence is a lie? That it's not something people are born with, and that those effortlessly confident people you admire weren't born special. They learned it, just like you can. Confidence is not a trait you inherit, it's a skill you build. And the moment you realize this, your whole life can change. Think about it. Skills can be practiced, improved, and mastered. You don't walk into a gym and instantly bench press 200 pounds, right? You start small, lift a little more each day, stumble, sometimes fail, but over time you grow stronger. Confidence works the exact same way. Here's the shocking truth. Most of us are waiting to feel confident before we act. But real confidence is the result of action. You don't wait for the courage to show up. You show up, and the courage follows. Every time you speak in a meeting when your voice shakes, every time you ask a question when your heart races, every time you take a step forward despite self-doubt, you are strengthening the muscle of confidence. And just like any muscle, if you never use it, it withers. Another thing most people don't realize is that comparing yourself to others destroys this process. You see someone who seems naturally confident and think, I could never be like that. But here's the secret. They've been practicing, failing, and learning in ways you can't see. They've made mistakes, stumbled, and gotten back up thousands of times. Your journey doesn't need to look like anyone else's. You don't need to fake it. You need to build it. Imagine if instead of believing confidence is an innate gift, you treated it like a skill to develop every day. You'd start noticing opportunities to practice in small ways, striking up a conversation with a stranger, presenting an idea, or even saying no when you want to. Each small step adds up, creating a compound effect that changes your mindset, your presence, and how the world sees you. Confidence stops being a mystery or an unreachable goal. It becomes a habit, a deliberate choice, and a skill you control. What if I told you that most of your confidence is built on a foundation so fragile it could shatter with a single comment or glance? What if everything you've been chasing, likes, praise, approval, was actually stealing your power instead of giving it? The shocking truth is this. When you rely on others to validate your worth, you are giving away your confidence. Every compliment becomes a temporary boost, every criticism a crushing blow, and you end up living in a constant cycle of chasing approval that never lasts. Real confidence doesn't need applause. It thrives in silence, in the quiet knowledge that you are enough just as you are. Most people spend their lives molding themselves to fit someone else's idea of perfect. You dress a certain way, act a certain way, even think a certain way, all because somewhere inside you're saying, if they approve, I matter. But here's the twist. The people you seek approval from aren't keeping score of your worth. They're wrapped up in their own lives. And the moment you understand this, the chains of validation start to break. Self-worth isn't about being liked. It's about being aligned with your values, your actions, and your truth. Imagine the freedom of acting from a place of self-respect instead of seeking approval. You speak your mind without fear, pursue goals without hesitation, and make choices that honor who you really are. Every time you choose your values over validation, you strengthen your inner compass. And here's the shocking part. People notice. Confidence built on self-worth doesn't need to be loud or flashy. It radiates naturally, and others are drawn to it without you even trying. The harsh truth is that the validation trap is subtle. It whispers, you are only enough if they like you. But when you shift your mindset to self-worth, you realize that your value is not a reflection of external approval, but an internal truth you own fully. You no longer bend, compromise, or hide parts of yourself to be accepted. You start to live authentically, act boldly, and make peace with who you are, even if the world disagrees. And in that moment, confidence stops being fragile, and you become unstoppable, because it is no longer borrowed. It is yours. What if I told you that every time you failed, you were actually stepping closer to the most powerful version of yourself, and that the pain you felt was the exact ingredient missing from your confidence? What if I said that failure is not the enemy, but the secret teacher you've been avoiding all along? Most people are terrified of failure. They hide from it. They pretend it doesn't exist. And in doing so, they trap themselves in a life of half-baked dreams and silent regrets. The shocking truth is this. Every failure you fear is a goldmine of lessons waiting to make you stronger, smarter, and more confident than you've ever been. Society teaches us that failure is shameful, that making mistakes diminishes our value, and that the flawless path is the only path to success. But here's the twist. Confidence doesn't come from perfection. It comes from resilience, from the ability to fall, rise, and keep moving forward no matter what. Imagine someone who has never failed. They might appear perfect, but inside they have no armor, no depth, no real belief in themselves. Confidence is forged in the fire of adversity, where every scar tells a story of courage and growth. When you start to see failure as feedback instead of judgment, everything changes. A rejection becomes an insight, a mistake becomes a stepping stone, and a setback becomes a strategy session. You begin to ask, what can I learn from this? Instead of why me? And in that shift, you take back control. You stop letting fear dictate your actions, and you start letting lessons guide your choices. Every time you fail and respond with curiosity and action, you strengthen the invisible muscles of confidence, resilience, and self-trust. The harsh reality is that avoiding failure is the fastest way to erode confidence. You think you're protecting yourself, but you're actually building a fragile identity that collapses at the first sign of difficulty. When you embrace failure, you step into a space where growth becomes inevitable. You discover that your worth isn't tied to outcomes, but to your courage to try. You realize that every misstep was never a signal to stop, but a push to evolve, adapt, and rise higher than before. Confidence stops being a dream and starts becoming a lived experience built brick by brick from every lesson failure gifts you. What if I told you that the reason you've been feeling anxious, insecure, or unaccomplished is because you've been worshiping results instead of honoring the journey? What if I said that chasing outcomes, like promotions, recognition, or instant success, is actually sabotaging the very confidence you're trying to build? Most people believe confidence comes from achieving something big, from checking off milestones, or from impressing others. But the shocking truth is this: confidence doesn't live in the destination. It lives in the process. Think about it. When you focus solely on results, every failure feels like proof that you're not enough, and every minor setback becomes catastrophic. You tie your self-worth to things outside your control, and as a result, your confidence becomes fragile, fleeting, and dependent on luck, timing, or other people's opinions. But when you shift your focus to the process, the daily effort, the small habits, the consistent commitment, you reclaim control. Confidence grows from the things you can influence, from showing up day after day, even when no one is watching. Here's the shocking part most people miss. The process is where mastery, resilience, and self-belief are actually forged. A musician doesn't gain confidence from performing flawlessly on stage. They gain it from years of practicing, scales, in a quiet room when no one is looking. An athlete doesn't feel confident because they win every game. They feel it because they've pushed themselves in every early morning workout, every drill, every repetition. Confidence is built in the unseen moments of effort, not in the applause at the end. When you embrace the process, you stop being enslaved by external outcomes and start finding fulfillment in your growth. You begin to celebrate the small wins, the discipline to keep going, the courage to try, the perseverance to overcome obstacles. Every step forward, no matter how small, reinforces your self-trust, and that self-trust is the bedrock of real, unshakable confidence. The shocking reality is that chasing outcomes will always leave you chasing more, because there's no finish line that guarantees self-worth. But focusing on the process transforms confidence from a temporary high into a lifelong skill. You learn to show up, act, persist, and trust yourself regardless of results, and that is the kind of confidence that cannot be shaken by circumstances, criticism, or failures. What if I told you that the biggest obstacle to your confidence isn't what others think about you, but the voice inside your own head? What if I said that the way you speak to yourself every single day is quietly shaping your life, your choices, and your sense of worth? Most people underestimate this inner dialogue. But the shocking truth is this: negative self-talk is like poison. It erodes your confidence, dulls your potential, and traps you in fear, while the way you treat yourself can either lift you up or tear you down. Every time you say, "I can't do this, I'm not good enough," or "what if I fail?" you are programming your mind to believe it. Your brain doesn't distinguish between judgment coming from you and judgment coming from someone else. If your inner voice is harsh, critical, or dismissive, it reinforces doubt and insecurity. But here's the mind-blowing part. If you intentionally speak to yourself with kindness, encouragement, and patience, as you would to a close friend, you can literally rewire your brain to feel more capable, courageous, and confident. Imagine treating yourself the way you treat someone you care about deeply. When a friend makes a mistake, you don't ridicule them, you encourage them, remind them of their strengths, and help them see the lesson in it. Now imagine if you extended that same compassion inward. You start replacing "I always mess up" with "I'm learning and growing," or "I can handle this challenge." Each positive, supportive thought compounds over time, and slowly your mind stops being your enemy and becomes your most powerful ally. The shocking reality is that most people spend decades with a toxic inner voice, never realizing that this is the root cause of their insecurities. They look for confidence in achievements, external approval, or material gains, but the true source has been inside all along. Your inner dialogue can either be the foundation of unshakable self-belief or the chains that hold you back. By consciously choosing words of encouragement, understanding, and empowerment, you shift your mindset from self-doubt to self-respect. And that shift changes everything. When you start talking to yourself like a friend, you unlock a level of confidence that no circumstance can shake, because it comes from a deep, unwavering belief in your own worth. You stop fearing judgment, stop waiting for permission, and start living with courage, clarity, and calm conviction. This is the hidden power that can transform not only your confidence, but your entire life. What if I told you that the very thing holding you back from real confidence isn't your lack of talent, opportunity, or knowledge, but your fear itself? What if I said that fear isn't a sign that you should stop, but a signal that you are standing at the exact point where growth and transformation happen? Most people wait to feel brave, to feel ready, to feel safe, and in doing so, they never take the steps that could change their lives. The shocking truth is this: confidence is not the absence of fear, it is the ability to act despite it. Every great achievement, every bold decision, every moment of true self-belief was preceded by fear. The difference between those who succeed and those who stay stuck isn't courage, it's action. You can feel terrified, anxious, and uncertain, and still move forward. Fear is not a wall to stop you, it's a door waiting to be opened. Every time you step through that door, even if your hands shake, even if your heart races, you are training your mind, your body, and your spirit to trust yourself. Here's the shocking part most people don't realize. Avoiding fear doesn't make it disappear, it makes it stronger. Every time you let fear dictate your choices, it grows, whispering, "You can't, you're not ready, you'll fail." But the moment you act anyway, you shrink fear's power and expand your own. Action is the antidote. One small step taken consistently despite discomfort compounds into unshakable courage and real confidence. Imagine if you treated fear like a compass instead of a warning sign. Every uncomfortable feeling becomes an opportunity to stretch, to grow, to prove to yourself that you are capable of more than you thought. Confidence isn't built in comfort zones. It's forged in the moments you confront uncertainty, risk judgment, and face the possibility of failure. Those moments are the crucible in which your self-belief is hardened. The shocking reality is that most people spend their lives hiding from fear, believing it protects them, but in reality, it imprisons them. True confidence comes from the courage to act anyway, to move forward even when you feel vulnerable, and to trust that each step, no matter how shaky, brings you closer to the person you are capable of becoming. Fear will never vanish completely, but when you act in its presence, it transforms from a barrier into a catalyst, and you discover that real confidence was waiting for you on the other side all along. As we come to the end, remember this: real confidence is not a destination, it's a journey. It's built one choice at a time, one courageous step after another, and one shift in mindset after another. It's realizing that confidence is a skill, that your worth isn't defined by others, that failure is your teacher, that the process matters more than the outcome, that the way you speak to yourself shapes your reality, and that fear is not a stop sign, but a signal to act. When you embrace these truths, you stop waiting for permission, stop chasing validation, and start living boldly and authentically. Good luck on this journey of transformation. Trust yourself, be patient with your growth, and remember that every small step you take toward building confidence is a victory in itself. Thank you for showing up, for being willing to look inward, and for daring to believe that you can be more than you ever imagined. Your confidence is waiting. You just need to claim it.